Hello there. Happy Friday. Thank you for joining me again on my Revenue Cycle Decoded channel, Revenue Cycle for Medical Practice Managers. I'm glad you joined me today. If you like the content on this channel, I'd like to invite you to subscribe and, of course, click the bell if you want to be notified when I post new content. Today's topic is practice manager burnout. And I was inspired to talk about this topic today by an article on LinkedIn from Quint Studer. And if you've been in healthcare for very long, you probably recognize Quint's name. He has been a leader in healthcare for many, many years, especially in hospital circles. He is the author of Hardwiring Excellence and is now the leader of the Gratitude Group at thegratitudegroup.com, which is a really interesting website encouraging healthcare leaders to find gratitude again in what we do, find meaning and purpose in serving our patients. And so, if you have not seen that website before, I would strongly encourage you to check it out. There are many resources for you there. But I primarily wanted to talk today about practice manager burnout. Quint's article today on LinkedIn particularly talked about how leaders can support their people, their teams on burnout and stress issues. And we're very familiar with physician burnout. There's been a lot of talk about physician burnout over the past couple of years, especially with the pandemic, and it truly is a real thing. And I don't want to minimize physician burnout at all. It truly is stressful for physicians right now and has become more stressful over the years. And many of them truly are struggling, and it has had consequences all the way up to and including suicide. A very important topic. But I think one topic that sometimes gets left out of the conversation because I really haven't seen very much about it is practice manager burnout. But I hear and see a lot of discussion about the sorts of emotions and feelings that practice managers are experiencing right now that tell me they are experiencing burnout. And some of those feelings are frustration with staff issues. If you've been in practice management for very long, you know all of the drama that can come with working in a clinic or a hospital department amongst the staff, and just trying to manage the day-to-day staff interactions and questions, as well as the relationships with physicians. That can be frustrating. Other causes of frustration could be all of the responsibilities. As you know, practice managers wear many, many hats, whether you're working in a clinic or a department, public health, etc. There are so many hats to wear. Not only are you managing the people who work for you, managing your teams, but many times you're filling in for those people if they're out. And so you may be feeling a great deal of burnout simply from the the responsibilities that are on your shoulders. Sometimes it feels like you're carrying that clinic on your back. And I very well know that experience. I can remember many times in my own practice management career where I simply had to take myself out of the office for a couple of hours and find some calm place, often a library, where I could just sit and think through something for a couple of hours, because I truly was stressed out and could not deal at that moment. And a couple of hours of time away gave me the calm to go back into the storm and deal with whatever issue it was. Sometimes truly traumatic things come up. For example, I've read stories of practice managers who have gone on vacation for a week, maybe their only time away from the clinic for the year, and have been bombarded through the whole week with texts and phone calls from people in the office needing something or calling to complain. I can remember I I had day off of PTO when my son was visiting once, and got constantly bombarded with calls because my staff had a personality conflict, and I ended up having to go into the office to try to settle it. and and sometimes it can feel as much like being a parent when you're a practice manager as a manager, as you can imagine. I had another time when one of my folks, my front office person, her son passed away, um, unexpectedly and traumatically, and it was the night before I was leaving to fly to another state for my son's graduation, and I was the only person to step in for her on that day, and that was very stressful, trying to, um, of course, manage her and take care of her, because it was traumatic for her, but at the same time, it was stressful for me as well, trying to find somebody to fill in that spot so that I could be at my son's graduation. Luckily, I was able to make that happen, but I had a great deal of angst about it, I can tell you. So, wearing that practice manager hat, it is a position with a lot of responsibility, and with that responsibility comes a lot of stress. And so today, I wanted to just give you some tips for handling that stress, maybe preventing yourself getting to that point of burnout. And if you do get to burnout, what do you do then? So, first of all, um, and Quint talks about this too in his article, is find ways to remember the impact of the work that you do. You may not actually be holding the scalpel or the stethoscope, but you are supporting the work of the clinicians and the physicians who do. And you make such a tremendous impact on your patients and your patients' lives, because you're keeping everything running so that those patients have a place to go to be treated, sometimes in the most devastating times of their lives. And in that way, you truly are making an impact in the world. You truly are serving. Um, and reconnecting to that impact that you're making can help on those days when you think your work doesn't matter, or when you have been so caught up in the day to day struggle. And in that same vein, connecting to the why you got into practice management in the first place. Why did you choose this as a career? For some of us, honestly, for some people, it was a money decision. It paid well and it was something you could do. But for many others, there truly is something behind it, that a willingness to serve, a desire to serve, and to support the work of your clinicians and your physicians, and to make that impact in your patients' lives. Sometimes just being able to say hello and share a smile with a patient and hold their hand for a moment, those moments are the ones that I have truly treasured when for my time as a practice manager. And reconnecting to that why can give you that sense of purpose, can remind you again why you got into the profession, and maybe spark some thoughts of changes you could make in your own practice that could bring back that sense of fulfillment and desire and purpose for you. If you are feeling stressed and burned out and traumatized, be aware that this is a true mental health issue, and just as we take care of our physical health, we need to take care of our mental health as well. And maybe that is that you contact your employee assistance program if there's one provided by your hospital or your group practice. But some smaller practices may not have an employee assistance program. Sometimes they're administered through your health insurance, so be sure and check if there is one available to you. And many health insurances now do cover mental health services, so maybe you arrange a telehealth visit with a mental health provider or a counselor, somebody just to talk to. If you don't have that, maybe you turn to a trusted mentor in your field. And I would say maybe avoid just your friends or your husband or your family members because they may not know the best ways to help you, but sometimes a professional mentor or a professional counselor can talk you through the stress and the burnout and give you some skills to cope. And at some points, you may need to turn to a licensed therapist or counselor or psychologist to help you get through. And that's okay. It's okay to take care of yourself. And sometimes we need to hear that because many practice managers are so giving and you are always there. You're always there for your team. You're always there for your people. You're lifting them up and supporting them, but you have to fill your own bucket as well. And in order to give out to them, that's a lesson that I've often had to learn the hard way. But if you don't fill that bucket when it's empty, who's there to give to them, right? So if you want to take care of your team, take care of yourself and do what you need to do to make that happen. Another way that you can help yourself if you're feeling stressed or burned out is to practice gratitude. Spend a few minutes every day, preferably before the day starts, just thinking about things that you're grateful for. Close your eyes, turn on some soft music, and just spend a few moments going through the different things that you could feel grateful for if you wanted to, even if you're not feeling particularly grateful that day or that morning or that evening. There are things that you could be grateful for if you wanted to. And if you give it a little focus, sometimes you will find those things and it can help to change your attitude or change the mood of the day or change the things that you're feeling. And if you go in starting off the day with gratitude, your approach with your team and your practice can take on a whole different um, level of emotion and the way you approach them during that day's events. Another thing that you can do is consider if you truly are in a toxic or environment in your workplace, are you in the right workplace? Um, Take some serious thought for that if it is destroying your mental health truly, because nothing is worth your mental health. And if your workplace is truly that toxic that you cannot cope, it's time to find some place where you will be supported and you will feel fulfilled and happy in your work. And sometimes we have to give our permission to do that ourselves. Sometimes the workplace is not the right one for us. And, maybe it takes you a bit of time to figure that out, yes or no. But once you have made that decision, make the leap. Don't continue to stay in a toxic environment just because you're worried that it's all going to crash and burn if you leave. Maybe it will, or maybe it won't. But sometimes, for your own health, for your own sanity, you have to leave and find the right place for you. Defend your right to self care. I talked before about people who have gone on PTO and then have not been able to take that time to recharge as they should because they are inundated with work concerns. Defend your right to that self care. Don't answer the phone, don't answer the text, or communicate with your people that they need to figure it out while you're away. Best practice would be to find a second in command, if you will, who can handle those issues when you are out so that you can be left alone on your private personal time so that you can regroup and recharge. That's how you bring your best self back to your practice. And finding that person that you can begin to teach to take your place when you're not around is one of the best things that you can do for yourself. And finally, we don't always find everything that we need to fulfill us in our professional lives. So sometimes we need to look for ways to find meaning and fulfillment outside of our work. Maybe that is contributing some way in your community or looking for educational opportunities so you can continue to grow in your professional career or even in personal pursuits. Maybe you love to draw, maybe you love to write. Give yourself time, find time for you to take care of yourself and to grow and contribute in your personal life and to find that fulfillment there. I want to encourage you, if you are experiencing burnout, please reach out for help. There are people who can talk to you and help you through it. You're not alone in this. And I would really like to connect to people who are exploring burnout amongst medical practice managers and healthcare administrators. I think it is a topic that is unexplored at this point and really needs to be talked about. And I encourage us to start that conversation about burnout in physician practice and in healthcare administration. So, thank you for joining me today. If you have found this content valuable, please like and subscribe to my channel. And of course, click the bell so that you'll be notified when I put up new content. I will add a link to Quint Studer's website, the Gratitude Group, in the comments below. And I would also encourage you to visit my website, revenuecycledecoded.com, and see the content that I have for you. We will be opening up the course for Front End Denials Decoded on March 31st. It will be available to you, and that course is $47. I highly encourage you to take that course if you are having issues with front end revenue cycle denials in your practice. I will be helping you to understand how to identify, manage, and prevent those front end revenue cycle denials. Also, there is a webinar that I will be holding. Look for that. That webinar is free, and I will be talking about how revenue cycle impacts your finances in your medical practice. Thanks again for joining me today, and have a fantastic weekend. Thanks.